Just like the final, we're going to get right to it. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast talking about the challenge. It's the final of the Challenge USA Season 2.
Yep, we are
And
here.
Before we get into this season's final, I have to, I think, remind everyone of some important context.
Okay.
The first season of the Challenge USA, most people did not finish the actual final.
Correct.
And I think that's an important context for this season's final because to me, it seemed way easier. Like significantly easier. I don't know. I mean, keep in mind, I didn't run it. So what do I know? But what did you think just overall of this finale?
Well, you have to remember the weather aspect played a huge role in people not finishing Challenge USA, right? That was, do I have that right? Wasn't that like everyone was freezing and
yeah,
like,
and none of them knew how to do Sudoku.
Correct.
Only
That was
Danny
one thing.
knew.
I saw online, and I don't know if this is confirmed, but I think there were like pictures of it. They didn't show that they had to stay up overnight. Like that was part of it too. They had to do the whole like standing on a ladder thing. I'm pretty sure I saw that online somewhere.
Not this season, last season.
No, this season. They just didn't show it. They just didn't show it.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure I saw a picture of that somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was still like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what the CBS version of the challenge is, right? You just hit the points. So you knew that like in a finale, you're going to have the eating challenge. You're going to have the running. There's going to be a lot of running, you know, you're going to have the puzzle, you know, like you just know you're just ticking the boxes of all the things that you have in a finale. And so they kind of hit that in a, you know, pretty packaged way if we're being you know, straight up about it. And I thought it was all right. Like I thought it was good. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it was fine. I noticed that it was, as we often say on You Killed It, it was not as difficult as like an MTV season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's totally fair.
So let's actually describe the finale, the final. So it's day one. They have 4 trials: strength, smarts, skill, and strong stomach. Naturally. And then day 2, basically, they just have to run 10 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little more complicated than that. There's stops along the way, but essentially they have to run a marathon.
Yeah.
Excuse me, nearly a half marathon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, the way that this challenge went down, I thought it was kind of a thing where you just had to be the strategic parts of trying to double down at certain points, you know, on when you were going to pick, because they had the time stuff, right? Where like you get the head start or whatever. I feel like that, how you navigated that was probably a way bigger deal.
Yeah.
Than people gave credit to, but that's what I think.
Yeah, so basically, if you're last in any one phase, you get a 1-minute penalty. And then you also have the choice to double down once in the 4 trials. And when you double down, what you're essentially doing is you're betting. If you win that stage, if you win that trial, you get a 2-minute bonus to your time.
Yeah.
And if you're last, you lose 2 minutes. So there's some risk reward.
Yes, there is. And I think, I mean, we'll get to it obviously, but honestly, I got to ask you this. Who did you think in the very beginning, who did you think would win?
I thought it was going to be Bananas.
Oh, okay.
Just overall, just because I was like, he's going to be the one to figure out that element.
Yeah.
The best. And I also thought that Tori would do well. I thought Tori would really, like, she's fresh off of a win.
Yeah.
So I thought those two, those two and Desi. I mean, I think I've been pretty clear all season that I think Desi was probably the most competent of the Survivor, Big Brother, like, newer women. I know this is her
Yeah.
second season on the Challenge USA, but like, of the newer people, I thought it'd be between Desi and Tori.
Yeah, I thought so too. You're pretty bang on there. I was actually surprised at like just how this all went down. But let's start from the beginning. What was the first sort of layout
It
of?
was it was strength, which was, I mean, in theory, pretty straightforward. They had 4 heavy boxes
Mhm.
that they could put on a weight sled,
Yep.
and the boxes were proportional to their weight,
Mhm.
which is interesting because weight doesn't necessarily equate strength. Um, I mean, that's just facts. It
True.
doesn't necessarily.
Big fact.
And yeah, they just had to pull it up a hill, and it wasn't like crazy far, as it turns out.
Mhm.
But it's like a grassy hill, so it is difficult terrain, like thick grass.
Yeah.
Corey decides to double down, which surprised me that Fessel did not. Because of anyone, I immediately was like, oh, this is a strength thing. Fessel's gonna like bet on himself when it comes to strength, because it's all we hear from him. It's like, I'm the strongest. I'm the strongest. So like, I had assumed that given the opportunity, he would bet on himself.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I could have seen that in a world where Fessy would have thought about doing that. But I think that, he kind of wanted to see what everything was first and why take the risk. Cause I think the other part is he probably thinks I can win all this without taking the double down. So why risk it if I could just win straight up? Like the risk might not be, or the reward might not be worth the risk, so to speak.
Yeah. Um, and then I mean, immediately as they start pulling them, everyone tries to get 3 of the boxes on the sled at once.
Mhm.
And I actually asked the question, like, do you have to do all 4, or like, can you split it up? And then they it immediately cut to Chris being like, I just did 2. He's like, I figured I just do 2 trips.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it immediately paid off for him. Corey follows suit, but I think Corey followed Chris's lead on it.
Mhm.
And it didn't like Corey never caught Chris.
Yeah.
What would your strategy have been? Do you do a lot of sled work in your workouts?
No, I can't say that I do, but I feel like Corey had the right idea. He just probably bit off a little more than he could chew, right? And I think Chris, we've been talking about it for a while now. It's not like we haven't seen Chris show how good of a competitor he is. And so I think some people might have been surprised by seeing Chris's performance, but I think we could tell for a while now because we've seen him come through in a bunch of different scenarios, a bunch of different uh, types of games that he can, perform.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that Corey did horrible. I mean, Corey did do horribly, but like I think he put too much pressure on himself and he probably psyched himself up too much and got in his head because there is a strategy to bringing I think you got to be honest with yourself in the beginning when you see how heavy it is. You got to be honest with yourself. Wait, can I do 2 trips or should I do 3?
Yeah.
And just go at it that way.
Well, I also think this is part of my point about proportional weight.
Mm-hmm.
I think Corey might be heavier. Like, I think pound for pound, Chris might be stronger than Corey.
Okay.
And I think Corey might be heavier, and therefore his weights were heavier than Chris.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
about muscle efficiency more than anything else, and also strategy, because your man Corey ends up finishing last.
He
So,
did.
so he takes that 2-minute penalty. On the women's side,
Mhm.
I was surprised that Tori finished last. Um,
She had a
And
very interesting, like, I don't even know what to make of her performance in this whole thing. But yeah, you're totally right. She struggled. Period.
she struggled pretty hard. Michaela finishes first.
Hmm.
Um, I was kind of surprised by that outcome.
Okay.
Uh, and then we've got trial 2, which is smarts, which is simply a spelling bee.
Hmm.
This is where I would double down. Like as soon as I said, I'm like, yes, I would double down on this.
Okay. Okay. I,
Um,
the spelling bee always makes for good times, right? Like, it's always fun. It's always jokes. It's always like, you get to see the people just mess up, right? Like, I think that's the funniest part about it. No.
yeah, I mean, they were aside from Corey, they
Hmm.
were pretty good at spelling.
Yeah.
We got to note Desi and Chris both doubled down. Desi says she made it. Sorry, Chris said he made it to his middle school spelling bee in one, and then they show a photo of him, and like he doesn't look like he's aged at all. And that's
Yeah.
not to say that he looks young now. I'm saying he looked old when he was in middle school.
Yes.
My man's looks like he's 35 when he's in grade 7.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It is pretty funny. You're totally right about that. That's a great call. Uh,
I also shout out to Corey who says, "Man, who spells nowadays?"
yes, right? Like, Corey is so right. He thinks that, at the end of the day, what Corey says is perfect. He's like, who use spell check? Who even spells anymore? Which always makes me think of, it always makes me think of what's going on in school right now. Yeah, and that's the funny part, right? Like, what the kids do. Corey asks, "Who spells anything anymore?" You use autocorrect. I thought that was a perfect point because it's facts. Like, I wonder what it is now in school for kids with calculator, well, with their cell phone, right? With your iPhone, which is a calculator, which is spell check, which is all these things, right?
Well, I mean, what's even more interesting is you've got AI coming, right?
Oh
Chat
wow.
GPT, which I always have
Yep.
to say very carefully because I struggle with that. Um, like I think longtime listeners know, I'm an instructor for sports journalism,
Mhm.
and like we got to look out for that now. And like, what's even
Yeah.
worse is, I think I told you this story offline, but I was just curious about what Chat GPT can do,
Mhm.
and so I asked it to do a biography of me. And Sheldon, I regret to inform you, I
Uh-oh.
died in 2004 at the age of 86. Um, I know I look good for a long dead corpse, but, but my point is, kids might be
Wow.
relying on things that aren't so reliable.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I might have to be down and over and done with. I mean, I can't really say that I've even entered into Chat GPT before, but like, that might be the first and last straw, just all in one.
But I guess Corey is on the cutting edge and just relies on autocorrect, which is, I guess, not surprising. I did find in this trial, Tori and Corey really exposed here as bad spellers. Like both
Yeah.
of them struggled. I mean, Tori missed out on one because she wrote alliance when the word was alliances.
Yeah.
Like that's just like not listening.
Not ready for the final at all. But it's also like you're just shook, right? Like,
Yeah,
you clearly are just rattled and rushing and not thinking at all. Um, what was the other one? Schmoozing?
schmoozing.
Yeah, Chris got that wrong, which I was kind of surprised at. And of course, did Corey get every single one wrong?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn.
So bananas and Desi wins, which is huge because, as we said, Desi doubled down,
Mhm.
so she gets a 2-minute bonus, which is massive.
Yep.
Trial 3 is skills. So they've got to create a puzzle. They have all these puzzle pieces that have 2 different colors, and they have to create the puzzle without any diagonals. Like they can't have any of the same color going in a diagonal.
Mhm.
Um, Tori crushes this.
I
Like
saw this as like
Tori
the
brings herself
anti-Connect
back in it.
4. That's
Yeah,
what I saw it as.
yeah, anti-Connect 4. That works.
Mhm. Um,
We should say Tori and Bananas doubled down on this. So Tori winning, her double down pays off huge because she had taken penalties twice, so that put her at even. And this
yeah.
is where I know these penalties are confusing to me. Like they really lost me with this system. And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they should have. They did after this competition show us sort of the standings. Or maybe it's after the fourth competition they showed us the standings, but
They
like I
did,
needed
yeah.
it updated after every single trial.
I will say that's one thing I do remember from MTV. They will always do a good job of, keying who the person is, what their name is, what the situation is in
Yeah.
first place, currently in last place, currently facing, like, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I totally agree with you there. And that was a weird thing. The other thing that I got to say really surprised me was Fessy had a really just interesting strategy for this, right? Like he just right away was like, well, actually, you just figure it out like this, and then bing, bang, boom, boom. He had it going, and got to give credit to Fessy as well, a guy who doesn't really show off his smarts a lot, if that makes sense.
It does, but it makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, I thought that was super interesting. Who ended up losing? Desi ended up losing this one. And on the men's side,
And
Corey ended up losing
Corey
again.
was last spoiler in all four.
Jeez.
Corey had a tough showing on day one.
Yeah. And he breaks
So
down. That was kind of like sad. Like when he said about his daughter viewing him as a loser, I know we joke around about Corey talking about his family all the time, but imagine that. Do you know what I mean? Like I was watching him and like they didn't show like the close up of tears or anything like that, but my guy looked like he was getting emotional. But in the confessional, saying like, geez, I keep losing all these things. Like I don't want my kids to view me as a loser. And I feel like that has to be a goal in parenthood, that you don't want your kids to think you're a loser.
I mean, what are the chances that his daughters are watching this show?
I mean, they're watching, but I'm sure they don't like get what's going on. Right. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure they're still pretty young. So just like, oh, daddy's on TV.
I think you can pretty reliably bank on children not knowing what's going on in the world.
It's fair. It's
right?
fair. We can go down a whole other different wormhole here, but yes, that is totally fair.
I mean, say the two guys without children, but just in my experience, like I wouldn't stress about it, Corey. Like, just don't show her. Like,
yeah,
this is gonna be very cynical. And again, I have to stress, I'm not a parent, but like to some degree, you can just construct the world that your children live in. Just like come home and tell her that daddy's a winner. She's not gonna know.
It's pretty funny.
Right though.
Yeah,
She's like
no,
4.
I hear you.
Just
I hear you.
Just come home, like buy a trophy at a dollar store, slap a participation ribbon on. Like she's not gonna know.
It's too funny. What was the next one? The eating
trial
trial.
4, steel stomach.
So there's a gross smoothie that had like stinky tofu pureed sauerkraut smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds gross, but I feel like they've had way worse stuff than that.
Yeah. Do you know which one I think is the worst? And maybe this is just me. I don't like eating animal parts when I can tell what it is. So like the ones where they've had to eat like eyeballs, I would have had a really hard time with. The where they had to drink blood, because like blood's thick. Like no thank you.
Don't think I could have done that. No.
I want to give a shout out to Michaela though, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think she actually has a really good strategy when she covers her ears so she doesn't have to hear what it is. Yes. Like I actually think that's smart, because to my point, like if you don't know what it is, I think it's easier. Like I think half of this game is mental. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. It was a great strategy by her. I also think great strategy by Bananas, who says, the dry food is the hardest. So crackers is a no-go. You got to use the whatever your smoothie is to help that go down. And
Yeah.
you could tell that people weren't doing well with the crackers. And what was the other thing? It was mealworms and cricket drizzle on a
Yeah.
chia stack.
I don't
And they had
actually
a
think that would be
wasabi.
that bad.
No, I mean, it's not still not great, but again, on the scale of what we've seen before, you're right. And then they had a wasabi cracker stack loaded in chili truffle,
Yeah.
which I would struggle with because that's the hot, and I struggle with spicy. I would struggle with that for sure.
But again, I think it's all about, as Banana said, combining what you're eating to make it as palatable as possible.
True. And that's just his experience for that's where being on the show for so long and experiencing how to deal with this stuff comes in handy for sure. Like for example, Chris, who this would be his first go around, and I know they've done there's eating challenges on Survivor, right? But he says he was doing okay until people started throwing up. And if there's one thing we know about the challenge, there's always the throw up montage, right?
Oh, it was a bad one. This one was maybe not the worst we've ever seen, but like it wasn't easy. It was not.
I just can't with the throw up montage, man. It's rough. It's rough.
Except for one person. Tori was just thriving. She was just in her element.
She was jamming and eating. It was weird what was going on with Tori. She was like jamming, man. She was having a great time.
I honestly would have found it annoying. Like if I was beside her, seeing her like live her life like that, like ugh. I do want to say this segment had my line of the episode.
Okay.
When Michaela said, "This is hard for me. I have standards. I don't have the gas station palate." The phrase gas station palate is just fire. And again, I'm not a big Michaela guy, but those were bars. That was really good.
I like that. That might be the line of the episode. I like that. That or something about autocorrect.
One of the two.
One of the two. Tune in to the timeline to see which one it was. Or actually, I guess while people are listening to it, you'll know which
They'll
one.
know.
Anyways,
they'll figure it out.
The other funny thing about it for Tori, though, right? Because she was like dancing, she was having a good time, but she says it was easy for her because her dad made her eat snacks that were American cheese dipped in ketchup. That was considered a snack.
I mean, I don't know why she thinks that is on a par in terms of grossness. Like, I'm not saying it's a healthy snack, but like,
That's a snack?
I don't think of it as a snack. I'm just saying it would taste better with like a more palatable consistency than what they're eating. Like it's sort of apples and oranges, right?
Yeah. Like what was your random go-to snack as a kid that you'd always have?
Oh man, I'm about to drop some gross shit. I mean, first of all, I mean the normal stuff. I would absolutely crush like cereal all day, like dry cereal, like just like corn pops.
Cereal. Okay. Yeah.
Just like corn pops straight from the box. I would for sure like big cookie and chips guy.
Okay.
But where we get weird is I would make relish sandwiches. Like I would take bread and I put straight up relish on it and eat that.
I've never heard of that before in my life.
Probably because I'm unique and special. And what were your go-to snacks?
I would have cereal all the time, like so much so that I don't even drink milk anymore as an adult. I think I just drank so much milk as a child all the time. Cereal, breakfast, noon, nighttime, all the time.
I still drink milk like all the time. Like I go through like 3 bags of milk per week by myself, no problem.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe that's why I stopped growing or stopped growing vertically. Horizontally, no problems there, but no, but the actual like go-to snack all the time would be taking 2 hot dogs out of the fridge, and then I would heat them up in the microwave and then cut them up in the little pieces and then stick way too much ketchup on the plate. And then that was a snack that I had probably way too much as a kid.
Yeah, I would do that. I would microwave hot dogs from time to time.
Yeah, way too much for me as a kid, to the point where, again, I don't think I eat hot dogs at all as an adult. I mean,
It's definitely burgers have definitely overtaken hot dogs as my preferred barbecue meal. If you're gonna have a choice, right? Like add a barbecue.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that I just casually mentioned bags of milk, and we might have some American listeners that are like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, that's one thing I always forget.
Yeah.
Why is that, by the way?
It's not even across Canada, but it's most of Canada. We do bags of milk.
But is there a reason for it? I'm sure there has to be, right?
There is a reason. I don't know what the reason is.
Whoa, I think that might be the first time on this pod that John has said, I'm not really sure the answer to that. I mean, there is a reason, but I don't really. Wow. This is like, what was it? ESPN show, Stump the Schwab?
Yeah.
Is that what just happened right now? Wow.
I'm Googling it right now.
I know. I was filibustering to give you more time here. It's what I do sometimes. If there's anything that I can do on this pod, it is just ramble about nothingness to fill time. It's one of my skills.
So the reason why Canada has bagged milk, I have learned in the past 30 seconds, is because it is more ecologically friendly and cost efficient for the producers, and it keeps the milk fresher longer.
So why wouldn't everyone do that? I don't understand.
Because people get freaked out having sacks of milk.
Little accidents and spillage.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to have like the magnet with like the little razor blade to slice it open.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
I was briefly romantically involved with an American, and she's like, I heard you guys have bags of milk. I was like, open the fridge. She's like, what is happening? How do you drink out of this?
Do you still have bagged milk?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just checking. I know there's milk cartons, obviously. Just checking.
I go through 3 bags a week. No problem.
No, I don't drink that much milk, but I have like a milk carton. So I have like a carton that'll last me a week most of the time.
Nah, those are rookie numbers.
Speaking of rookie numbers, there was a race up the mountain is pretty much the next part, right?
Yeah. So day two.
Again, I got to look that up. I'm pretty sure I saw that, or maybe I heard it on the pod that they did actually do the whole bit where you got to stay up and be sleep deprived.
So I'm so interested in that because I noted in my notes, which is where you note things, that I was like, wait, did they just sleep in a tent? Like, are they all well rested? Like, this is way easier if they like those 4 trials. I imagine with like the like field side confessionals and stuff. I imagine in total that was just like an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
And so then like if you're well fed and then you sleep, like it's not that bad. But if they were forced to stay up all night and that was cut, that's different. Then I'll be less judgmental.
Yes. So there is a picture. This is correct. I did see this. My brain is not fried, but there's a picture of them standing on the post. They normally have to do that. You stand on the little pillar, or sometimes it's a tree stump or whatever. So there's a picture that leaked online. And so the competitors, before the competitors could sleep during the overnight portion, they had to stand on pedestals and count to an hour. Mm-hmm. If they were under, they had to restart. If they were over by more than 5 minutes, they had to restart. They managed to get it correct on the 3rd attempt, but they did it as a group, so it really didn't benefit one person more than the opponents. Yeah, that sounds pretty dumb. I get why they didn't put that in.
Yeah. So for day 2, significantly in the steel stomach competition, Chanel finishes last, so she takes her first penalty. The most important thing that we have to talk about here is that Corey has a 5-minute penalty heading into day 2.
So I want to talk about this for a sec.
Okay.
Because I really think that he beat himself up really badly for this, but I don't really think that it's that big of a deal. Like, you have so much time to make up the 5 minutes that, like, honestly and truly, I don't think that it makes a difference in the end. I know the way that they edited it at the end, made it seem as if the 5 minutes might have mattered. Like they tried to make it seem that way, but it really didn't. Do you know what I mean? So I think the 5 minute thing, like it sounds like a big head start, but I don't really think it's a big deal at all.
Especially because I think Corey might be the fastest man in the house that's left.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, between him and Fessel. So, like, he could probably make that up. Probably.
Yeah, totally. Agree.
So the final day, they have to run 10 miles, which is 16 kilometers to the rest of the world.
Hey.
And along the way are risk stations. So you may pass the first 2 risk stations, but if you do them right, you get a big advantage. If you get them wrong, you get penalized.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd risk station you must do. So Bananas has the biggest lead of anyone. And his strategy is to not absolutely book it out of the gate. That's his words. He says that instead the thing to do is to pace yourself, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. Again, it's a half marathon, but that's fine. It's not even really half a marathon, but it's closer to a half marathon than a full marathon.
He's right, though. He's right, because he knows that like people end up gassing out because you're going too hard at the beginning. If you can just set a good pace for yourself, you're much better off.
Is he right, though? Because you know that you have these stops. So it's not that you're running 10 miles flat. It's that you run 10 miles split up 3 times.
I think it depends on what kind of runner you are. You know how there's some people who can run, and as long as they don't stop, like they're fine. Like for me, and I haven't run on the street in a long time, but I used to hate when you get to like a red light, you know, and then like you're trying to like jog on like in the same spot, and it's just like not the same at all, and just kind of it just ruins your momentum, right? So like I get what you're saying. I just think that it more so depends on the particular runner in general, just because if you're doing like a full sprint to each one, yeah, you could look at the station as a rest, but like, you know, you might not even make it to the station, you know, like you're sprinting, you're trying to sprint the whole way, but you might not make it to that station. So I don't know.
So the first risk station, and notably Fessel passes Bananas.
Yep.
Is that you have to throw an axe and get to stick on the target. You've got 5 axes. That's it. You got 5 chances. Have you ever been axe throwing?
I think so. I think I did it once, but I feel like, I think I did it once. And yeah, it was okay. But like after you go a couple times, it's just like, sure.
The thing to remember with axe throwing is you don't actually want to throw it as hard as you can. What matters is how many rotations there are.
Exactly.
So you either want 1 rotation or 2 rotations before it reaches the target. But what matters is you just need the sharp part to hit and it'll stick.
Yeah.
So I was not surprised when Fessel could not get all 5.
He's too strong.
Well, it's not that he's too strong. It's that he thinks everything is about strength.
Exactly.
Rather than technique. Right? Yeah. Like he was probably just hurling it as hard as he could. His axes keep bouncing off.
Yeah.
But importantly, and like I should say, Bananas gets it on the first go. Chris gets it almost immediately. When Corey gets it eventually, he gets it pretty quick. But significantly, Fessel doesn't remember that because he didn't do it, he doesn't get to skip ahead.
Yeah.
He's supposed to run the long way, but he runs the short way instead.
And I got to say something here too. You talked about how convoluted it was keeping up with the times and like what the head starts were and all that. Some of these things during the competition were also convoluted. Like you listed beautifully the whole how everything works in terms of everyone has to do the third one. You can skip one of the first 2, but like then it was, but if you're the last person to the second stage, then you're out. And it's just like, wait, what's going on here? So confused. And what happened to me watching this part was, so as you mentioned, if you don't hit the axe, if your axe doesn't hit the target, then you have to run the full length of the next sprint to the next station. But if you do hit the axe, your axe does hit the target, then you get a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
And Fessy just takes the shortcut. And they had this little graphic, and I'm going to reference it to like the Mario Kart map, you know, where you're showing where each of the competitors are and like who's in first, who's in second.
Yeah.
As they showed that for a glimpse, it showed Fessy, and I got confused for a second because I'm like, wait a second, how come Fessy's on the shortcut track? Like, this makes no sense. So I was even confused in that moment until they came back around. Sorry. And I wonder if like there is a way that they could have edited that part together better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, you know, to build up a little more of the drama. Like, I feel like before they would have been like, Fessy, you're going the wrong way. No. Like something, and then like hard smash cuts to break or something. I don't know.
So significantly, Michaela and Desi also make it on their first throws. Chanel gets to it pretty quickly. Tori has to go the long way too, however.
Yeah.
And she actually correctly goes the long way.
Yeah.
Risk Station 2 is you have to balance scales, and you only get one shot at it. So you have this big scale. One side of it is filled with rocks. The other basket is empty. You fill it up, and then you pull the lever, which like is holding it steady, and then you see where it's going.
Yeah.
Chris gets it. Oh, like he gets it on obviously the first try because there's only one try. He doesn't like nail it, but like it's not completely imbalanced.
Yeah.
So he's allowed to go. And the advantage here is if you balance it, you get to drive an ATV to the next risk station, which first of all, obviously you're resting more.
Yeah.
You're sitting, you're hydrating, but I think maybe more importantly, it'd be such a boost mentally because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like driving an ATV through Croatia would be fun. And like these competitions are not fun. So being having that like 10 or 15 minutes or however long they drive the ATV for, where you're just like sort of enjoying the wind in your face.
Yeah.
I think that would be such a huge boost.
Totally agree with you. And like, speaking of a boost, but whatever the opposite of a huge boost is, imagine being Fessy and you show up to the next station and they're like, sorry, you got to go back because you took the shortcut and you're not supposed to. Yeah. That's got to be just deflating because you know you're done at that point.
Yeah, you're absolutely done. The other thing that's significant that happens at Risk Station 2 is Desi and Michaela arrive together. Desi opts to go first and like balances it beautifully. Like could not have done better. But Michaela, because she has to wait for Desi to finish, gets impatient and decides to run ahead.
Yeah. And her whole plan was she thought that she was banking on Desi to mess up.
Yeah.
Right. So her thought was Desi's going to hope that Desi messes up so then I have a head start on her on the run. Instead of if Desi messes up and then she's running, you now get your chance to watch what she did.
Yeah.
Work off of that, get it correct, and then drive past her. Like the thought process made no sense by Michaela.
She was so focused on Desi that she also missed the point that you also, if you run the entire way and Chanel or Tori gets it, or whoever is third, because the fourth place person's eliminated, they're going to pass you if they get it too. Like an ATV is going to pass you no matter what. Yeah. And you're not getting the rest of someone in an ATV, and you're not getting that psychological boost. I know it sucks to have to like sit and watch Desi do it, but like then at least you're like at least you're then like 5 minutes behind her rather than like 15 or 20 minutes behind her. Like the ATV is like everything.
Yeah. I mean, this was at this station right here, it almost summed up perfectly a bunch of people's seasons of the challenge. And what I mean by that is for Michaela, it summed up her fact of just trying to do too much, right? Like the whole season, she was trying to do too much, and too much that she didn't have to do because she had the numbers on her side, and she was pretty good at a bunch of the challenges. And if she just chilled and was patient and waited,
Mm-hmm.
she could have made the final instead of like making up beefs with all these people along the way. And if I look at what happened now, if she just chills, waits for Desi to go, and then goes, she gives herself at least a shot at the end. And instead, you end up tiring yourself out and gassing out.
I'm so glad you said that, because I had the exact same thought, that just like Fessy screwed up the axe throwing because he couldn't not be like,
Strong
he
guy,
couldn't,
Fessy.
he couldn't not help himself.
Mhm.
Michaela couldn't help herself. Like, they both got in their own way.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so then our man Corey runs up
Mhm.
and he says, if there's one thing I know how to do, it's how to use a scale. Maybe telling us and the feds too much?
I mean,
What did he mean by that, Sheldon?
I don't know, man. I didn't even hear him say that, to be honest. I don't know. I must have I wasn't paying attention to that part of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I don't
admire
know.
your lack of snitching, but like, that
No, but
was
yeah.
like, I hope he's talking about protein powder.
Yes, that makes sense. That would definitely make sense, weighing out his frozen fruit that he puts in his smoothies,
His
the
macrobiotics, his macros.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, you got to get the measurements correct.
Corey does it really quick. As he said, he is handy with a scale.
Mhm.
We'll leave our listeners to decide what he meant by that. So does Chanel, who trips running to reclaim her bag.
Yep.
Tori is the last woman to arrive, so she's eliminated from the final. Same with Fessel.
Yep.
That's crazy. Like, I did not think that they would be eliminated.
This is where I missed having more time with this finale, because I needed more, not tears, but I needed more. I just needed more time with Tori and Fessy after a disappointing performance in the final. Because that's a bad performance by the both of them. You can't be the first ones eliminated. Are you serious? That's crazy. The whole season was spent being afraid to put Tori or Fessy into an elimination, right? Then we get to the final, and you're supposed to be the big bad challenge vets, and you're the first ones eliminated. And if you're Tori, you weren't even really close. Fessy, at least you can look at it and say, okay, well, he made one massive mistake, and that cost him, which always seems to cost him in a final if we go back on his final history. But for Tori, she just got beat by the other girls. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was like a good reality check, not only for her, but the other people in the house. When you think about how good competitors Desi, Michaela, and Chanel are. I think that's a good reality check for the rest of the house.
So we skipped over this, but also Bananas could not balance the scale. So Bananas and Michaela are on foot. Everyone else is on ATVs. Yeah. So suddenly Corey's in second.
Right.
And Desi flies by Michaela, and Chanel eventually flies by Michaela. So on to risk station number 3. They have to stack cinder blocks in order of who was eliminated.
Yeah.
Which honestly shouldn't be too hard. Like, that's their lived experience. And as Chris pointed out, he's directly responsible for sending 5 people home.
Yeah.
So
he's got that covered.
So yeah, he's pretty on top of it. Chris, it seems like everyone got it on the first try. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Chris gets his done on the first try. Corey gets his pretty quick. Desi gets hers done just as Bananas arrives, which shows how big a lead Desi has at this point.
Yeah.
Michaela needs to get help from paramedics at this point. Like, she's getting checked out. Like, she is absolutely gassed out and done.
That's also the miscalculation by her as well, right? Like just the added toll that you're choosing to run an extra distance as opposed to just trying to receive the reward of driving an ATV.
Yeah.
Like logically, that all just makes no sense. Like it just makes no sense. Like, why did you, like, I get why in theory you might think it's too hard, but if you show up and you've already seen that people have gotten it right and you get to watch people go, that's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
That's the part I don't get. You could literally sit there, watch the rocks that she puts in and just do it the same way, switching a little something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And also, again, when you're standing watching, you're rehydrating, you can stretch, like you can calm yourself down. Michaela absolutely blew it. Chris wins, which, I mean, we're going to talk about that at length, but I do have to say, Corey shows up. He's second overall, second of the men.
Yep.
Is it possible that Corey was the fastest on day 2?
No, because they tried to spin that narrative, right? Like they mentioned, the 5-minute deficit, blah, blah, blah. But Corey also says that he never saw Chris.
Yeah.
Right? Like and think about that. There are parts where they're like going up a mountain. And so how could you not see, like if you were even remotely close to him at any point, you would at least see him.
Yeah. That means that they're like for the balancing, like for each risk station, there was no crossover. Like that means Chris was done his cinder blocks before Corey had even gotten there.
Exactly. And if there was the overhead shot of Chris and Corey, they would have showed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They would have showed us that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think the 5-minute deficit mattered. Because I just think Chris just dominated. Yeah. He really did. It's that simple. And I saw this. It said Chris challenge and survivor champion, 4 elimination wins, 2 daily challenge wins to guarantee a spot in the final, and then went against 3 vets in the finals and cruised to victory. A legendary season.
I mean, we spoke about him maybe being rookie of the year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we were on, in fairness, we were on this a couple weeks ago talking about like, Chris is like, he's going to do really well.
Yep. And, and Desi wins for the women.
Yes.
Wes tweeted about this without spoilers. He said, the people who won deserve to win.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
They both played. I mean, Chris played a bad political game.
Yeah.
But Desi played a flawless political game.
Yeah. I mean, she had a good crew, stuck with their crew, even dealt with like the drama of when Michaela wanted to make like huge, massive moves. She played the right hand in terms of, when things kind of blew up with Tori, she was the one to kind of make amends. Like, yeah, I thought she had a really good season. And, the fact, if we remember a couple episodes ago, was when her and Chris decided they were going to try to work together, obviously to win together. Then that's pretty dope. Yeah, I just thought it was a great performance for Desi and good revenge for how her last finale ended with the meow meow and my guy just quitting Hunter right at the first station of the final. Right. I mean, so to have that happen.
She was never the problem on that team.
No. But I'm saying like, it's good revenge in terms of like how disappointed she was at that moment. Right. Like if you put a side by side, her emotions pouring out, tears of sadness, right. And frustration going back to the first season of the Challenge USA and being eliminated because your partner is afraid to go in the water and doesn't want to go in the water and you're eliminated. You're the first one out, to then the side-by-side image of the emotions pouring out of this finale where obviously tears of joy because you just won your share of $250,000 because you just won. I mean, that's a great storyline when you look at it, the redemption of Desi and the redemption of Chris, who had a difficult season. I don't know if I've seen a season like that where someone was picked on and thrown back in, didn't have the numbers on his side, but just kept winning both eliminations and daily challenges to get to the final and then dominate a final like that. Right? Like we've seen Bananas, we've seen CT, we've seen some guys before, right? Even Ashley like get thrown into eliminations and have to fight their way through. Kara, right? Fight their way through to a final. We've seen that before. But I'm saying to have that happen and then dominate the final like this, got to give Chris a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. I think we know who our MVPs are. Like, how could it not be the two that won?
Exactly. What about like overall, like just from the season? What was your biggest? I want to ask you, and sorry, were you going to talk more about this season?
I was just going to say, like, overall, I thought the season was fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the season was fine. And that kind of goes along with what I was going to ask, right? Because I was going to say, like, overall, just in terms of the Challenge USA as a brand and this thing being on CBS again, and even the structure change because it's just an hour long. It's kind of just straight business. There's no real like side shenanigans of what we're used to on the Challenge. As a show, as an entity, what do you think of the Challenge USA?
I just don't like it as much. Like I liked this season more than last season.
Agreed.
But it's as we keep saying, it's PG-13, and the Challenge to me should be rated R. Like we didn't get the details because of just like the hour-long episodes, which really are 45 minutes long. We don't really see a lot of the like goofing off or like romantic connections in the house. It's fine. It's just not as good.
And let's be honest too, right? I think the biggest difference in terms of enjoying the Challenge USA season 2 versus season 1 is that they added actual challenge competitors. And if we break it down, you added these challenge competitors and they were outnumbered, and yet the majority of them made it to the final.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like you can try to steal the challenge swag and bring it to CBS and use all these other people. But as long as you're still playing the challenge game, you need the challenge vets and competitors to be on the show to make the show good. You need that. So I don't know what they're going to do for season 3 or if there is a season 3. But yeah, overall, I thought it was okay. Okay.
We've seen worse for sure. Significantly, on Thursday, the MTV Challenge is back.
Is it Thursday or Wednesday?
It is. You might be right.
We'll figure it out.
Wednesday. It is Wednesday.
Okay.
So it is the Challenge Battle for a New Champion. So the concept, I gather, is that it's all people who've been on the Challenge who've never won before. But they also, and like I kind of dislike this part, they have returning champions, which is like a format we've seen before. So I don't know if these people are supposed to be coaches, if they're going to get to enter in later on. I don't know what, but like I kind of would love to see a season without returning champions. Right? Okay. And like the cast of the people who've never won before is actually quite intriguing to me. There's Asaf, Berna, who we've seen both of them on the show before. Callum, who is new to me. Chauncey. Kieran, who is, I think that's how you say his name, who is new to me. Colleen, Corey Lay, Ed, Emmanuel. Remember the Romanian Wish version of Jordan? Horacio, who I love. Huey. James J is back once again. Jessica Brody, who looks familiar, but I can't place it. I think her name is Jujuy. I don't know. Jujuy. How would you pronounce that, Sheldon?
I have no idea.
Kyland, DJ Mel.
Yes, DJ Mel.
Michelle, Mariah, Nerys, Olivia back after getting her face rocked.
Oof.
Raven, remember her, who was obsessed with that guy who was just not feeling it.
Yeah.
Big T is back.
Oh, wow.
And Zara.
Big T.
I love Big T. And then the returning champions, and I'm not clear on what the role is, are Brad, Kara,
okay,
CT, Darrell, my guy Devin, Jordan, Casey, Kaz, who I guess is from one of the other challenge, like Australia or whatever, Laurel, and Tori.
Okay. So hold on. We're going to have Jordan, Tori, and the bootleg Jordan?
Yes.
And Laurel. And
Laurel.
Kara.
Yes.
Okay. I need a bunch of these people to be on for a long time.
I hope it's as explosive as it could be.
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be fun. So I can't wait for that. That should be cool. And I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes for sure.
Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. As always, shouts to the people liking and subscribing, sending in the comments. You guys are the reasons why we still do this pod. I mean, we enjoy talking to each other. We enjoy cracking jokes, but also when you guys are on us, when like, you know, where's the pod? Where's the pod? Where's the pod? We got to serve the people. So we thank you.
You can find me on all social media at J Chidley Hill. And until later this week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.